we are seeking to promote better policies for better lives, and including, in particular with a view to tying into the SDG Sustainable Development Goals. So the agenda for today is I'd like to give you a brief introduction to the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, for those of you who don't know much about the organization, and then move on to the iLibrary platform. That's our research repository where all formally published items are accessible, irrespective of their format and their content type. So we've got books, we've got periodicals, we've got databases, and in a range of different formats, PDF, Excel, all in a single location where they can be searched and found and interacted with, and then integrated into your own workflow in the most suitable manner possible to you. So that's going to involve some navigation skills about how to use the platform, and also searching, some tips on how to rapidly get to the content that you're really interested in, and then some personalization issues in there, some personalization features. And then at the end, as Melissa says, if you have any questions, please do send them through to her via the chat, and I'd be happy to answer those at the end. Okay, so very quick overview. The organization, the OECD itself, so as I say, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, actually had its actually began in 1961. So we're celebrating this year our 60th anniversary. Our origins actually go back further to post-Second World War, and the Bretton Woods set the conferences and the Marshall Plan, the international organizations that were started then to help rebuild the Europe primarily, but also more globally, and put the world on a firmer footing going forward, and to try and avoid any such reoccurrence. The headquarters are based in Paris. I'm talking to you from France, just outside Paris, or I'm teleworking, as I'm sure you know the joys of. And we have actually centers dotted around the world. So the majority of the staff are based in Paris, but these centers, they have about 10 to 20 staff at each, sort of covering different geographic areas. So Berlin, obviously looking after Eastern Europe, Tokyo looking after Asia, Mexico after Latin America, and Washington, North America. We currently have 37 members. The most recent country to join was Colombia, and you can tell there's a Latin American influence because our current Secretary General is Mexican. So there are a number of countries that have joined from the region. Chile, Costa Rica is just lining up as well. And in fact, he's just coming to the end of his second mandate, and he's going to be replaced by an Australian, Matthias Cormann. And I think one of the key factors about his selection was the plan to try and shift the focus away from Latin America and more to expanding into Asia. The reason there are 37 members is they are all market-driven economies with democratically elected governments, all committed to free trade. But that, just because there are 37, I say the majority of them are focused around Europe, because that was where the beginnings were in rebuilding Europe post Second World War, but then also North America and Australasia. We have Japan and South Korea, Australia, New Zealand are all members. But we work very, very closely with many more countries, and South Africa is one of the key partners that we have. And thinking of the BRICS, so we've got Brazil, India, Indonesia, China, and then South Africa. And South Africa is actually the most integrated into the OECD's statistical systems, if you like. So that means it's got very, very good coverage in a number of different areas. But we'll see that a little bit later on. So there are 3,500 staff, and I say the majority of those are based in Paris, and the majority of those are economists, statisticians, data experts who help crunch the data to produce the reports that we publish. And we have an annual budget, 370 million. That's contributed by the 37 members, and also countries that participate who are not necessarily members. So, for example, South Africa, and they will contribute on an ad hoc basis to particular programs. So the work is carried out amongst the 300 different committees, and we normally have 40,000 experts coming to visit Paris to talk about the different programs and different elements of work that are being undertaken. So as I mentioned, our tagline is Better Policies for Better Lives. And really, that came to a real head after 2008 and the financial crisis that happened then, trying to make sure that we make a stronger, cleaner, fairer world. And that's become even more important post-pandemic, and trying to make it even more people-centric, inclusive and sustainable. So at the heart of everything that we do is the data that we gather in, typically from the national statistics offices, and the statisticians that we have. They normalize the data, so they make it comparable, and then from there it's able to make analysis and be able to come out with models and forecasts and reasons why certain countries are doing better than others based on the policies they've been following, and then ultimately from that we can set global standards that can then help to raise the global standard of living generally. And we are organized, so there are three elements, if you like, to the way we carry out our work. So at the top we have our board of directors, the council. So they're a representative from each of the 37 member countries, plus one from the European Union. They determine the overall direction of the organization, responsible for the strategy. Then on the left of that, you have the committees. These are these 300 or so working parties that are going on the whole time, meeting and carrying out the peer review process. So we do peer review, but it's not like in the typical journal sense. It's an internal peer review. So one country will have its policies and its situation reviewed by two others, for example, in the case of the economic surveys, we'll see shortly. So they're responsible for overseeing the work. And then on the right-hand side, you have the Secretariat. Those are 3,500 staff at the OECD who are doing the day-to-day work, the crunching numbers, as I say, and analysis, and then coming up with recommendations which then get put forward to the committees to be discussed and then passed back up for sign-off by the Council. So now a couple of examples of just to indicate the breadth that covers. So this one is particularly important for businesses. So it's called the Guidelines for Testing of Chemicals, that's managed by the Environment Department. And basically this is an agreed set of standards that chemicals must conform to, and basically helps avoid any duplication in testing when chemicals are made in one country and then exported to another, or even within the country. As long as they conform to the OECD standards, then that's good enough. They don't need to be retested. And it's estimated this saves between 300 and 400 million euros a year in the avoidance of duplicated testing. Another example is our trade department. So they actually have within them the agricultural section. And these standards concerning fruit and vegetable ensure that customers' interests are looked after. So, for example, this is a French market, and these are all Category 1 items. They've got the price, the provenance, and then what the category is. And that category means that reassures the customer that they are getting fruit of a good quality, that it's the right size, right color, right texture. Can't necessarily do taste, but there's all of the physical elements are in place there for them to be reassured that the price that they're paying is basically good for that quality of fruit. And then the third example is the work that we're doing with big tech in trying to ensure that well, it's not just big tech, it's any large company, in fact, any large multinational, to ensure that they don't use tax loopholes to move their profits from where they've been generated to the lower tax regimes. You know, this shopping around for tax, and so in particular in the you're getting a lot of attention in Google, Amazon, and Facebook, and Apple, and our tax department has been working for a number of years on this, having been given the mandate by the G20 to come up with proposals and suggestions. And this work is now actually starting to see fruition, because very importantly, America is buying into it, and as the Biden administration has actually been proposing that there be an international standard for taxes. So it's taken a long time, but it's something that is very, very important, particularly at the moment where government revenues need to be are more important than ever because of the costs involved with the pandemic and the recovery from that thereafter. So this is key work that we're undertaking. This is just a quick picture to show OECD in the midst of the family of international organizations. So OECD is not part of the UN family, but we obviously work very, very closely with them. We also, you can see a dotted line to the G20. So we act as the secretariat for the G20 whenever they get together. And as I say, the work that we're doing on taxation, for example, is a direct result of that situation. And then just finally, a quick slide to show you the level of work that we are undertaking with South Africa in a number of key areas. So in development, education, environment, and governance and social issues. So you can see here from the economic survey, the most recent one that came out last year. So these typically for member countries take place every 1.5 to 2 years. For non-members, they are less sporadic, but this is actually the second survey for South Africa. This is a good example of water governance, and not just looking at the national level, but at a very specific micro level. In particular, the Cape Town, the problems that have been happening there with water governance. Talking about the work taking place to normalize the tax regimes. And so this is an example of a specific report on South Africa. Other reports looking at education and also social issues like the importance of immigrants in contributing towards the local economy. So just show you a very good level of integration of South Africa into the work of OECD, even though not currently a member. All right, that finishes the presentation on OECD. I don't know if at this stage there are any questions. Melissa, anything come up, or a quick break, or should I move on?
No questions at the moment. Thank you very much, James. I think you can continue. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please make use of the chat box. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, I hope you can see, can you see the Google screen?
Yes, we can. Thanks, James.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, all right, so as I mentioned, OECD gathers a lot of data and produces a lot of reports. So it estimates 6-7 billion data points contained in our data warehouse, and we produce something like 200 to 300 reports typically every year. And all those are put on the repository platform, OECD iLibrary. But people don't necessarily know that that content is there. So typically a researcher will start their research by having seen something in a newspaper or been sent a notification by a colleague, or heard something that, for example, the Economic Outlook, that's one of our key reports that comes out officially twice every year, but then we have interim reports that come out every other quarter. So the latest one just came out last month. So, for example, you may have heard that South Africa was mentioned in this Economic Outlook. So here are the results. So if I click on the first one, this is going to take me to the, so in fact, we're here in the OECD main website. This is where all the latest news and items are available. But we've got a special portal dedicated to the launch of this report. So you can see the resources. There are different sections available. We have a link to the press conference, for example. The presentation was made there. And then, I mean, there's information there. There's various graphs and things which can related to the report. But if I actually want to read the report, I select that option, and this takes me now into I'm reading this on the OECD iLibrary platform now, and you can see this is a relatively short report. That's because it is an interim, they're saying, so the full reports are much larger, 300 pages, and let's say this is basically a 2-year forecast of looking ahead what is going to be upcoming. If I'm interested in this report, and we're reading through, it's a relatively short snapshot, and so we've got the G20s. You can see South Africa featuring there, some graphs. If I'm interested in this graph for whatever reason, but I can see the source here. So in fact, it is the database that this publication is based upon. But if I want to dig into the data in greater detail, I can select the, I can go to the database itself, and then look at the different options that are available. So, for example, this is now the database, and I can see the different options that there are. And if you look over here on the right hand side, this is the first of the many different format types that are available, accessible on OECD iLibrary. And so this will actually take us into our data warehouse, where I said, we have 6 billion data points accessible. So this is just going to take me into the Economic Outlook window, if you like, into that database. I'm not going to be swamped by everything else. I'm just going to look at the Economic Outlook data. But this is basically where the latest available data is accessible, and that you, as a researcher, for example, you want to access the latest data. You can then you can see here's the table ready to go. I can export this straight away, or I can customize. So I can at the moment it's got 62 countries selected, but I can change the change the number of countries and just select those that I'm particularly interested in, the variables as well, at the moment 293. So it's a very large table. I probably don't need all those elements, and then the time and frequency. I could go back. This is an economic outlook, so it's a forecast. So really, people are typically only interested in what's going forwards, but maybe you want to see what the trends are that have happened. And then, so once you're happy with the selection, you can then export, download. It's also possible to set up to log in, create an account within this particular environment, and save your selection, because the selection process, the customizing, might actually take some time. But what you can do is then save those the search parameters, so that when you come back at the later stage, when there's new data available, when the next report comes out, you can simply repopulate the query, just adding in the latest data. Another key feature of this is the ability to cite the database. So this is super important for when you are making any reference to the content. And all, one of the key features of OECD iLibrary is that every element has a DOI, so it can be easily cited and found again later on at a later date, or if you see a reference to some OECD content, then you can easily find it. So this citation shows that it's from the dynamic database, because it actually says that gives you the date of when it was accessed, because there is the possibility that new data could be added. That could, sometimes if somebody's saying, well, I can't find the same data, that'll be why, because the database has evolved. And then you've got export options to be able to take that out into your citation tool of interest, bibliographic reference info. Okay, a very important thing to point out on this particular data environment, and say this really is for experienced users, are the little blue eye icons, and these give you important information. In this case, it's telling me what the source of that of the data is. In this case, the Czech Statistics Office. If I select items, this one, for example, it might concern the unit of measurement, if there are missing variables, why that is, what the cause is, contact as well. So very, very useful information in being able to interpret the contents of what you're looking at. So, so you can see we've got a range of archives in this particular case, the Economic Outlook, and then I've got links to related items back here. And then, so what I'm going to do, so this is the data warehouse. I'm going to go back to the homepage for this particular stats project and move down the page, and you can see we've got some other icons here. We've got web, that's HTML for speed of download, PDF for being able to print and copy and paste easily, EPUB for use offline, if you download and take it away with you. And then we have this read version, which is a version which enables you to share easily on social media. I'm going to go further down here as well, and we've got the CSV file. So if you want to access the archive, you can simply download it in its entirety using the CSV option. So you can see there are lots of different options according to the user type. In this instance, I'm going to go to the economic policy reforms. This has just come out, this new report. It normally comes out every year. Unfortunately, it skipped last year, but not to worry. And now this is the homepage of a publication, a typical, in this case, is normally an annual report. And so you can see we've got important metadata information here. We've got languages that it's available in, related content. We've got related databases. I can subscribe to this as an RSS feed if I want. So as soon as a new version comes out, I can get notified. And because this is a series, so this is information about the series at the top of the page with the DOI for the series. And then the 2021 is the latest edition. And so I have information when it actually came out, the number of pages, ISBN information, and a DOI specific to this edition. Okay, again, we've got the four major formats for report type content, and then a table of contents below that. And then you can see here we've got the country notes giving information about each of the situation in each of the countries, for example. And then we've also got within the publication itself, there are some tables and graphs, and those are available as in Excel spreadsheets. And so this is a real time-saving feature for you. If you find a graph that you're interested in, it can be easily downloaded as an Excel. It's already there present for you to be able to, the numbers and the graph are there ready for you to be able to use. All right. Now, whilst we're on this page here, I'd like to just highlight some other methods of navigating. One of those is using the blue navigation bar, and that's by theme. So we've got different subject areas here. All our content is breaking down into one of 17 subject areas, and it's possible, obviously, for some publications to appear in more than one publication. We saw that book on water governance, for example, Cape Town. So that would appear both in governance and in environment. Then we've got a breakdown by country, so finding content, and then the ability to be able to cross-search between theme and country, and you can choose multiple countries as well, and multiple themes. There's no limit on that. We also have a catalogue. So this is more a way that we historically have categorized the content. So by books, typically, ISBN, our papers, those are ISSNs, the statistics, we saw the data warehouse, but we also have other types. And in glossaries, we have some key reference items, and then we have a link through to our, we've grouped all content specifically on coronavirus into a particular area, and then statistics. Now, if you're searching for something specific, some specific subject matter, then you can use the quick search. So thinking of education and looking at enrollment rates. So if I search for enrollment rates in the quick search box at the top of the page here, I can type that in and it will find wherever enrollment rate is mentioned in either in the title or in the blurb, in the short abstract that accompanies every item. So there you go. So it's found 201 results. However, I can do a more detailed advanced search and look for the same thing. So just to show you the difference, here we go to enrollment rates. If I do enrollment rates without quotation marks, it will look for, it turns up a very different result to if I put in quotation marks. So I can select whether all fields, which area I want to be particularly searched, but I will go for the quotation marks to slightly restrict the search results. But just on the advanced page, I can also define whether I just want a particular time period. If I'm looking for any particular imprint that associated with the OECD, languages, any particular type, so I could be looking for a database or a working paper. I can set those. Also use the theme and country selection process again, and also the submit, the sort by. I don't want news first or most relevance. Anyway, just quickly to show you these enrollment rates. And so you can see we've got 3,700 results there. That's quite a large return. But what I can do is start using the left-hand side to where we've got these facets, and to start refining the search. So maybe I'm interested in enrollment rates, but in particular in the development. I can also choose by year, so I can go for most recent. So I can whittle down the search results. And I can also search within those. So, for example, I'll see if there's what we have for South Africa, what results come back. Okay, so 2 results for that. So that's a very useful means of being able to refine your search. Now, just if I do find an article that I'm particularly interested in, I can create a reading list, a marked list, but which I need to sign in for. So you can see here at the top of the page that I'm recognized as an OECD user, but I need to sign into my own personal account, and then I can access my reading list and add new items to it if I wish. So that's very useful for being able to share with colleagues, or if you're a professor, or you can share with your class of students. So here in my profile, you can see that I've got my saved searches, and so you can see the different elements that I've saved. So enrollment rates here. But what I can also do is set this up as an email alert. So this means that you can receive notification as soon as a new piece of content arrives on the platform on OECD iLibrary, that you will get notified. So it's extremely useful if you are looking in a very, very specific subject area. Okay, so that's all within my profile, this ability to save your search history and selected items, so your marked list. All right, if I go back to, we've looked at, okay, navigating by the navigation bar, looking in quick search, advanced search, but I want to show you now really going back to the original, looking at the SDG Pathfinder. So in fact, I'm going to the development section here, and this is just to highlight how one of the 17 thematic pages is set up. We have on the left-hand side the different sections, the books, the papers, and the statistics. So books, as you can imagine, those are all the ISBNs, periodicals, those are ISSN and the book series as well, both ISSN. So you can, again, you can navigate through content alphabetically or by year, again, different ways of being able to search. If I go back to the development home theme again, then the papers, those are the working papers. The statistics, we saw the databases. I'm just going to show indicators very, very quickly, because those are very useful for users who don't feel so confident manipulating data. If you select, we've got a new logo here, this data indicator logo. And what this does is take us to this page where the graph has already been created by OECD statisticians for you to then be able to modify and then either download as the data itself, or be able to share either the graph that you see before you, or if it's on a blog, for example, you want it to update, then you can keep adding the latest available data. So depending on your requirement, Facebook, Twitter, or email. But back to the our theme and development. And so on the development theme, down at the bottom, we have a link through to the SDG Pathfinder. So now this is a tool that is it's in its second beta. It's not fully developed, so there are still some features that we were planning to add. But if I go back to enrollment rates, for example, I can either navigate by topic or by country. So I put in South Africa as well. But if I choose enrollment rates, what this does now is take me to all relevant OECD articles that have been published on this particular subject area. And how that's happened is that all the content, all OECD content has been put through an AI machine, and concepts have been identified and then sorted, so that we have 600 core themes, and then above that 4,500 related. So so it gives you an ability to be able to see how different concepts and different ideas are related to the SDGs themselves. So in this case, right, I found 11 articles that concern enrollment rates and that are linked to the SDG quality education. So I can again create a reading list, although this reading list is only temporary on the SDG Pathfinder site. I can read. I can click back to the read version on OECD iLibrary, and then more takes me back to the homepage, say for education at a glance in this instance. But so this just shows how the enrollment rates relation to this particular SDG. But if I go back, I can also navigate by SDGs themselves. So if I look in quality education again, I can see all the different topics that are related to that particular subject area. So you can see I got 965 total results, total number of documents found within the subject area. And then I can move around and see. So if I'm interested in vocational, plug that into the vocational education. Okay, and that gives me the results for that particular core topic. Now the color of obviously the size and the color of the topics is important. The bigger the topic, obviously the more content it has, and the darker the color, the more SDGs that it links to. So that really comes into play when you use the topic map to be able to navigate. And here you can see all 17 SDGs. So it just happens to be the same number as number of themes that OECD happens to have as well, but they're not related, they're completely different. But you can see somehow they are related to, so it's development cooperation, for example. So it's a fantastic way of being able to identify different subject areas, and then so this, for instance, climate change. Okay, so it says 166. All right, so if I'm interested in those, then I can go to that particular topic and then see all the publications that are related to it, and you can see each SDG how it ties in. But it's tying in with concepts and just providing a very different way of being able to link different ideas and see how they're interrelations. So it's just a very different, a novel way of being able to navigate through the content. So as well as the topic map, we also have subject specific. So for World Water Day, for example, we set up a special water selection. So that gives you 200 documents. But we'd be very interested in receiving your feedback if you give this a try. As I say, it's accessible via the development theme. Okay, just going to go back to the website. Where was it? Here we go. Sorry about report and just back on the homepage of the main OECD iLibrary. Just there are some important sections at the top here. In particular, in the help section, there you'll find user guides and tutorials to be able to help you. If you have any questions afterwards, to be able to use the platform, particularly with regards to the database, because that is quite a special feature and not necessarily straightforward. So there's important help provided there in the user guides. And alerts, well, we saw that we've got RSS feeds, we've got the email alerts that you set up based on your search, and we also have other My OECD newsletter, which can also notify you about information in particular subject areas. Okay, that's the end of the presentations. But please, if you have any questions, do feel free to let me know, and I hope you found that useful. That was a whirlwind tour of the platform, but it is designed to be very straightforward to use, and say the idea of having everything, irrespective of the content type, on a single platform, accessible and in a range of formats according to the type of use you envisage you're looking for. So thank you very much for your time.
James, thank you very much for taking us through that. It's always so useful, and I always say it's good if something's interesting, but with the iLibrary, it really is such important information and data that you can get access to for many reasons, as you say, really driving policy making and improving lives at the end of it. So thank you very much for highlighting the features and really just reminding us what the power of having access to the iLibrary. Other than requests for recording, I don't see any other questions. Are there any questions for James while we have his attention? Please do make use of the chat box if there are any questions.